Now, scorching heat has engulfed Japan as the nation witnesses record high temperatures in some areas. More than 250 people were taken to hospitals for treatment of heat stroke over the weekend in Tokyo. The Japanese government has warned of possible power shortages in the Tokyo region, asking people to conserve energy as the country endures an unusually intense heat wave. In Isezaki, north of Tokyo, the temperature rose to 40.2 centigrade on Saturday, the highest ever for June. Temperature in downtown Tokyo rose to nearly 35 centigrade on Monday. Much of Japan would normally be experiencing rainy season at this time of the year. However, this time, the Japanese Meteorological Agency declared the season already over in the Kanto and Koshin area. This is the earliest end to the season since 1951 and a full 22 days earlier than usual. The rains usually temper summer heat, often well into July. The Meteorological Agency also attributed the heat wave to hot air coming from a powerful high atmospheric pressure system stalling over the Pacific Ocean. It further added that high temperatures are expected until early July. In a related development, the Japanese government called upon the nation on Monday to save electricity due to a possible power shortage amid sweltering weather. The Economy and Industry Ministry urged people living in the Tokyo region to conserve power in the afternoon, especially when demand peaks at 4 to 5 p.m. The power supply is relatively tight after Japan idled most of its nuclear reactors after 2011 meltdown in Fukushima. It also has been closing down old coal plants to meet promises for reducing carbon emissions. Japan also faces a potential shortage of fossil fuel imports owing to Western sanctions against Russia over its invasion of Ukraine. And for more on this situation, our correspondent Phoebe Amoroso is joining us live from Tokyo. Phoebe, good to see you. Probably you can start with an update on the situation. How many homes are affected? And what's the reaction from the Japanese on this power crunch or rationing?
Well, the reaction is almost business as usual in terms of Japan has been issuing supply warnings in the past. And the reason for this is that Japan has very little energy in supply reserves. And these kind of power warning advisories are issued when the reserve power supply drops below 5%. And the government had already given the public a heads up earlier this year that it was forecasting potentially, even during peak demand with air conditioning during hot temperatures, that this supply rate could drop to around 3.1%. Anything below 3% is considered a risk of a blackout. And just to wind back in time a bit, and this is not just a situation that occurs during hot weather. If we go back to March, where there was an significant earthquake near Tokyo, infecting many households, that knocked some of the power plants offline, and then we did hear warnings against potential power blackouts. Now, fortunately, there hasn't been any blackouts today, although the government did maintain a warning to try and save power between the hours of 3 and 6 p.m. But this was very much tempered by the fact that temperatures are close to record highs for this time of year, and there are concerns over heat stroke. Again, looking back over recent years, we've seen increasing numbers of people being admitted to hospital and also passing away due to heat stroke related illnesses. Back in August 2020, it was a record in Tokyo in which nearly 200 people passed away during hot weather. So the government really is having to strike a very careful balance here.
Phoebe, what is the government doing, or what are some of the measures that the government is currently implementing in Japan?
In terms of addressing the energy issue, well, yes, we're hearing these warnings for people asking for their cooperation, but long term, they have to look at the energy supply and where Japan's future lies. There is something called the Basic Energy Plan, and that lays out what Japan's energy future should look like for 2030. And a big focus is on nuclear energy. Now, the government has set a target to increase that to 20 to 22% of Japan's energy share share by that date. But it is a long road ahead. Currently, it's only at 6%. And there are several obstacles in the way. Firstly, if you look at how the power is divided among Japan, local governments do have a great amount of weight in the decision-making process. And of course, there's a lot of NIMBYism, not in my backyard. Many local governments are concerned about their local population being against nuclear energy, and they can sort of block and slow down the process of restarting nuclear reactors. Sorry, just to rewind on that, of course, all nuclear power stations were taken offline after the Fukushima 2011 earthquake and tsunami impacted the Fukushima nuclear power plant. Now, the government's really trying to bring these back online, and we are slowly seeing some nuclear reactors restarted, but this is a long process, and the Nuclear Regulation Authority has really sort of beefed up its approach to assessing exactly just how safe these nuclear reactors are, and that really reflects public concerns. So the approval process that these power stations must go through is complicated. That takes time, and there's also a matter of not just being able to switch on a button to restart these nuclear reactors. It will take some time in terms of the technological process. Right. So all in all, it is a long road ahead, and of course the government is working on reassuring the public that this is the safe option and the best future for Japan's energy supply.
Live from Tokyo, our correspondent Phoebe Amoroso, thank you very much for that update. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.